Hey guys, how you going? Trent Freer here. Today I'm just coming to you from my garage in the boat because the rain has set in today. I was going to go for a fish, but yeah, it looks like it's set in all day and it's only going to get worse. And I've been meaning to do a video on my rod setups for a little while because you guys have shot out a few questions in previous videos about what rods I like to use when I'm chasing cod especially, but I thought that I'd just cover, Murraycod, yellows with golden perch and redfin and trout, the rods that I like to use. By far, it doesn't mean the exact rods that you have to use. These are just my preferred rods that I use, but just thought I'd give you a little bit of an idea. So if you're looking for starting to get into fishing, or you're just looking for that next rod, some of this information may help you. So what I'd like to do first is just go from what makes up a rod. I'm not going to go into the composite of graphite and all that other kind of stuff, and what guides and reel seats and all that kind of stuff that they use in a rod, because I am by no means am I a professional or a rod maker. But I'll just go through the length, because length can be very important about what you're using it for. There's your weight class. So this one is an Icon Bad Boys Death Adder, which is a 2 to 4 kilo rod, which is your weight class. And your taper is another very important thing when it comes to fishing. So we'll get into that right now, and we'll go through the weight class first. So like I said, this is a 2 to 4 kilo rod. It's matched up with a 4,000 reel, which that for me just means that this is a perfect rod to go chase yellowbelly for. You can go chase your redfin as well, of course. You can do a little bit of both. You can troll and cast with this thing. And just having that bigger size reel, the 4,000, means that if I'm out chasing cod as well, it's another option that I can pick up with another lure on. And I know that the reel's got enough stopping power to stop most Murraycod. I mean, when you're getting up to the metre plus size, it'll be pushing it to its limits, but it still can handle a lot of size cod, and it's that different option when you're using a spin reel setup on a rod. You can cast lures a lot further. So if you're in them lake scenarios and you're going across big vast banks, these are definitely a tool that you need in your boat, so you can put them long search casts out. But anyway, we'll go to the length first. This is a 6'3", and mainly the reason why I got a 6'3" size rod to chase me yellowbelly and your cod and stuff like that. So if I'm walking the banks and I'm down in the scrub and I'm trying to flick out casts from underneath willow trees and gum trees and all that kind of stuff, a 6'3" rod's not overly too long to be in that heavy cover casting lures out from the bank. Also, a 6'3" rod is still in that nice long length of a rod, so when I'm out in the open water, I get nice long accurate casts. And the longer the rod is, the longer you'll be able to pump out your lure. So if you've got a 7 foot, nearly an 8 foot rod, which is pretty much, you're going to want to be just fishing them out in open water, but they will give you very long casts with whatever you're trying to cast out with the rod. So the reason why I got my 6'3" is it's just a crossover. So fishing in open water, I still get nice long casts, but fishing in them tight areas or out in the boat, even when I'm fishing up against a big old gum tree in the water, I can still sit nice and close, and I don't have a massive long rod to try to get into them tight little nooks and crannies when I'm dropping baits down in between the tree limbs. The next thing is the weight, so a 2 to 4 kilo, when they talk about the weight of the rod, the smallest weight starts at the tip of the rod. So the 2 kilo on this rod starts at the tip, and then it works its way down into the 4 kilos, and that's where all the power comes from. So when your rod loads up, all the power gets put down into the butt of your rod, into your reel seat, and that's where you can really obviously pull a fish out of a snag, or it's got the stopping power is always in the butt. So sort of that 2 to 4 kilo, 2 to 5 kilo for me is a perfect sort of weight range for chasing your yellowbelly, your redfin, and also fishing for cod, because it still gives you a little bit of stopping power, especially if you've got like a 3.5 to a 4,000 reel matched up to it. You can just set that drag perfectly, and it should be able to handle all of them scenarios that you need to with them 3 species of fish, and then a little bit more as well. Yeah, so the other thing about a rod is the taper. And now what the taper means is basically where the rod blank itself flexes from. So the 3 categories you usually get out of your taper is your slow, your medium, and your fast. So your slow taper is pretty much nearly the whole rod. So you'll get nearly 3/4 to a full rod. When it's under pressure, that's where it loads up. So it uses basically the whole rod. Medium taper is about 1/3 of your rod. So 1/3 measured from the tip backwards. So 1/3 of your rod. So just above halfway, that's where your under pressure, your rod will flex from. And the last one's your fast taper, and that's 1/4 from your tip of your rod. And a good way is just to have a look at the back of your rod. Sometimes they've got them printed on the back with how long the rod is in feet. Then they'll have the action of the rod, which this one's a medium action. And then they'll have your kilos of what it's rated to. So this one's 2 to 4. It doesn't actually have 2 to 4 written on there, but I just know this one is a 2 to 4 kilo rod. So what that means is, for me, and what I've learnt and picked up over the years, is a medium to a fast taper is what I prefer. When you're casting, you'll get longer casts opposed to a slow taper. And when you're setting the hook with a fast or a medium taper, you'll be able to have more control over that bait, because it'll just pick up that slack, especially if you're using monoline compared to fluorocarbon, which is a lot stiffer, which will set the hook a lot faster as well. But yeah, it gives you a lot more sensitivity as well. So when you're searching out like a lake per se, or a big rocky point or something like that, with a medium to fast, or a lot of my rods besides this one and a couple of others are fast taper rods, you really can feel that sensitivity when you're trying to search out that different sort of cover. So you'll know when it's timber, when you're coming across timber, because it'll feel different to rock. It'll feel different to your big chunk heavy rock, to your little pebbly rock, to sand, and then dragging along mud as well. It just gives you that extra sensitivity. So that's why I like to mainly use medium to fast taper rods, because yeah, it just gives you that longer cast. Your sensitivity is right up there. And for setting hooks, it's really good for setting hooks as well. Yeah, now we go to a different rod. This one also is an Icon Bad Boys rod. This one's called the Vermin, and it's just a nice little light 1 to 3 kilo rod. And even though this is sort of a specialized rod for finesse gear, yeah, it's still a good one for me to chase trout in the streams, and for chasing redfin in the lakes and the rivers, and yellowbelly as well. A 1 to 3 kilo rod will still give you enough power in the butt down in your 3 kilo section to get a nice big size yeller in. And even with a smaller cod, like your 50 to 60 centimeter cod in a lake where you don't have as much current, and a place like Lake Murraycod with lots of timber, you're not going to get pulled straight into there and try to have to pull it out with a lighter rod. But that's the reason why I've got a nice 1 to 3 kilo rod, is so when I go walking the streams, I don't have the reel on at the moment, but I've got a little 1500 size reel on it, so then I can pack nice light line on it. I usually put, I think it's about 4 pound or 6 pound braid on my reel for this reel, or for this rod I should say, and yeah, then it's just matched up with a 4 to 6 pound leader, depending on what I want to use on the day and what situation I'm using it in. But yeah, a nice little finesse rod like this. And this one's got a nice little fast taper, so it's got a nice quick tip on it, so your sensitivity's there, you can get nice long casts out of it. And this one is a 7-foot rod. Usually when you walk on most of the streams, you don't have a lot of cover over your head, and when you're in the lakes, so it's just perfect for very long casts and search out them fish where they are. And yeah, it's just perfect for me when I'm chasing the trout, the redfin and yellowbelly, and for using them really finesse lures, so using like a half a gram jig weight up to a 3 or 4 gram jig weight with tiny little plastics, using small little lures like your Rapalas and you know, your 40 to 30 mil size shallow running bibbed lures, little crankbaits, and also little tiny little vibes like your metal vibes, 20 to 30 mil to 40 mil vibes that, you know, they hardly got any weight to them. Rods like this are perfect for using that light gear. And yeah, I take this down the coast as well. It's a great little brim rod, chasing brim on very finesse gear, and also your flathead too. It's really good for chasing most of your flatties, and tailor as well in your estuary systems. It's just, yeah, one of them rods that crosses over from your estuary to your streams to your lakes, and that's the reason why I've got this bad boy. Yeah, so the next rod in the setup is another Icon Bad Boys series Black Ninja rod. You can't half tell I'm a massive fan because I do have a lot of their rods. This one is a 6-foot bait cast rod. It's a medium tapered rod, so you still get plenty of sensitivity and plenty of load up power to get your lures out there, but you've got that option of that extra grunt being a 4 to 6 kilo rod, so chasing them bigger Murraycod, and you could even chase yellowbelly out in lakes and rivers with this bad boy. I've caught plenty of yellowbelly off this out of the rivers and out of the lakes as well. But yeah, this one's more of my just specialty casting rod for chasing, yeah, your bigger yellowbelly and your bigger cod as well. Being 4 to 6 kilo rod, it is very good. Got a lot of stopping power for when you're chasing your bigger cod. If you end up hooking up to one, you've got that option of giving a bit of an extra bit of force behind how hard you try to fight the fish when you've got a bigger rod. It's a very important thing, so when you go and chase bigger fish, you don't want to be undergunned, because they will dust you up and hand you back your pants pretty quickly if you're undergunned when you're chasing a big fish. So that's why I've got this bad boy. It's got matched up to just a Revo winch Abu Garcia reel, and one thing I have to tell you about this setup is it's as light as a feather. For that fatigue factor when you're out casting all day, and a lot of people out there would understand exactly what I mean when you're putting thousands and thousands of casts in. Having something that is light as a feather like this and casting it around all day, by the end of the day, you'll thank yourself for it, because yeah, it is seriously just a really light setup. I love using this setup for your spinnerbaits, so you like your half to your 1 ounce spinnerbaits. I will cast on this rod, and it's perfectly suited for that. I'll cast small lures like 50 mil lures up to 100 mil lures on this, sometimes even 120. Trolling, yeah, it's just perfect for trolling as well. You can troll any sort of lure that you want on it, a 50 mil all the way up to 150 mil lure if you really wanted to troll with this bad boy. But for me, it's mainly just my casting rod. I cast a lot with this. If I do want do a little bit of trolling. I've got a couple other rods that I use for that, but this one's mainly just special. Like for me, I just use this specially for casting because of how light it is. When I got it, I was thought, oh yeah, it'd be a good crossover rod for the weight and size of it for trolling and casting. But then when I picked it up, I was like, this is so light, that's all I'm going to use it for is casting. So that's one of my rod and reel setups for casting for Murraycod and yellowbelly. Yeah, so the next rod I've got to show you, it's a Dyra rod. It's a 4 to 9 kilo rod, so it's just that step up again. I matched it up with a Tatula Type R. It is a bigger setup, a bit heavier, but for casting, this one is just for purely casting big lures and also trolling big lures. So when I'm trolling your 100+ mil lures, this is the rod I use, and when I'm casting 100+ mil lures as well, this is another rod that I always like. I mean, I've still got the option of going a smaller lure like it's on it now that I was using last time. I was just poking around at home, walking the bank. But yeah, this one mainly for me, depending on the day and what I need to be doing. It's one of them rods that I've got the confidence of getting big lures, like your big surface lures, 100 mil plus. It does cover a lot of your bigger swim baits as well, big soft plastics and stuff like that. It's got the power to get them out there and with no worries and ease. So that's what I mainly use this one for. It's a 6'4" rod, 6'4" rod. So you can still take it into, you know, walk along the bank and all that kind of stuff and not have too much rod to worry about whipping in the trees. But it also is a fast taper. So you get plenty of sensitivity and the hook set and power when you're launching a cast out there with bigger lures. And you also, your 4 to 9 kilo, you've got plenty of pulling, like plenty of stopping power with the weight of the rod plus your drag on your reel to try to stop some of them bigger fish. Like I said before, in places where there's a lot of cover, it doesn't take a fish long to get its head, turn around and go straight back into that snag. So yeah, having the right setup for what you're chasing is key to not be undergunned. So when you're chasing your bigger fish, having that bit more kilos in your rod and thinking about what you're going to be doing with them is vital for the right setup. Yeah, so my last setup I've got to show you is it's a specialist rod. This one is my Swimbait rod setup. So this one's got a Revo Toro Abu Garcia reel. It's an oversized bait casting reel. So it's got nice big drag, plenty of line capacity for casting big lures. And this one is a Doblin Swimbait rod. So this one is a 20 to 40 pound rod, which converts to 9 to 18 kilos. And it's an 8-foot rod. So like when I was saying before, the longer the rod you've got, that more length that you can get out with a cast. And it is a heavy to fast action. So your last quarter of your rod is where it loads up the most. It gives you more accuracy in casts. It gives you more sensitivity in the rod tip. And it gets you a lot more power out for that long cast. So obviously what I cast with this is your swim baits. So your big swim baits, like this one is like a smaller Jackal Gigantural. You can obviously, I can cast this on my other bait cast rods, but when you're talking about 120 mil plus hard body up towards near 200 mil, where they're pushing the limit these days, where they're just getting bigger and bigger, this is perfect for that. Your 1 ounce to your 2 ounce spinner baits, like I could grab a 2 ounce trolling spinner bait and cast it around with this, and I'll still get heaps of distance. And your big surface lures as well, so your 150 mil plus, they're just getting even bigger these days as well. Yeah, so your big 150 mil plus surface lures, like your water snakes and your mud-eye water snakes, and there's a custom crafted serpent, and there's all these other lures coming out now that they're just getting longer, bigger, but getting heavier. And your big plastics, I've got some 100mm plastics, 120mm, 150mm, 200mm soft plastics, your glide baits. You can get your nice glide baits, your 2-piece action glide baits that start off the same, the 100mm plus region, and they get fairly heavy. So this one is just a specialty rod for casting all them bigger swim bait, heavier surface lures and hard bodies like your big crankbaits and stuff like that. Because one thing I will touch on, which I haven't mentioned, the reason why I've got this, it's because when you're using big lures and you've got a certain size rod, you will cast the tip off it, trust me. I learned it the hard way. I used to always love using 2 to 4 kilo rods, but back then when I was using them all the time, the lures were a lot smaller, and then year after year lures started getting bigger and heavier. And I remember casting, it was like a 1 ounce spinnerbait head with probably 120 to 130 mil plastic on the back of it, and I'm casting away, and next thing you know, I've casted it and I heard a snap, and I didn't know what was going on until I reeled, obviously looked down, the end of my rod was missing, and reeled in the rest of it, and my tip was snapped off. And I was thinking, oh, maybe I've just accidentally trod on it, or I had it for a little while and just travel and all that other kind of stuff had worn it down, and that's why it broke. But then after buying another one, the exact same rod, 2 to 4 kilo, nice little light setup, doing the same thing on a weekend. Went fishing on, it was middle of winter, cast some big lures with it, and it only lasted the weekend. So when you're thinking about what lures you're going to be using, especially the weight of them, I mean, obviously you can go a little bit over, because on some rods they will have a cast weight imprinted on the blank, saying that that's just the rod manufacturer's sort of average of what you should be casting with that rod. You can go a little bit more than what they say, trust me, you can do that. But if you go too much more and put too much stress on the rod, you will break the tip off it. So that's just a little tip for everyone out there buying a rod to cast big lures with. Make sure that the rod can handle what you're casting, because that is a big factor. So that's the reason why I got a nice big swim bait rod. It's not to try to pull the plug out of the bottom of the Murray, which I'm pretty sure it could nearly handle. But no, it's a specialized rod for casting big lures, and it is a swim bait rod. So obviously us in Australia are starting to get massive into swim baits, just like the States have been doing for years. So that is the reason why I've got a specialized rod like a swim bait rod. And that's pretty much all the rods that I've got to show you, because I don't want to make this video too long. A little bit of explanation that I hope helps you guys when you're thinking about buying new rods, especially for ones that are just getting started. Always go to your local fishing shop and give them a good talk about what rod you're looking for and what you're going to be using it for, and they can always definitely help you, because they deal with them, the rod manufacturers, and they're all pretty 100% of them will be all fishermen too, so they'll definitely give you a helping hand when you go into that tackle store. But yeah, I just thought I'd just do that video because a lot of people have asked me the questions of what I like to use, and hopefully I've explained it all. But yeah, so if you like the video, give it a like, and cruise across to that subscribe button and give me a subscribe, and I'll catch you later.